Lila Brooks is introduced as a nurse whose hair is always coming undone and whose hands shake whenever Maribel Cross barks an order. Perceived as a mistake too fragile for the trauma unit, the narrative provides subtle hints of her buried steel. Specifically, her eyes never leave a wound, and her hands become rock-steady the moment she handles a needle. Before we continue, welcome to Brittany Stories. This is the home of powerful, emotional, and unforgettable stories, filled with drama, secrets, unexpected twists, and life-changing moments. Each story is crafted to entertain, inspire, and keep you thinking long after the video ends. If you love shocking reveals, hidden identities, billionaire secrets, and stories that touch the heart, you're in the right place. Like our videos if they move you, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you never miss a new story. Lila Brooks stood at the medication cart, her trembling hands fumbling with a pill bottle as Maribel Cross's voice cut through the nurse's station like a scalpel through skin. "Brooks, how many times do I have to tell you? Alprazolam goes in the blue tray, not the white one." The head nurse's perfectly coiffed hair didn't move as she gesticulated wildly, her crimson nails pointing accusingly at the scattered pills. "I'm sorry, Lila's voice barely rose above a whisper, her fingers scrambling to sort the medication while her colleagues exchanged knowing glances. She was the ward's perpetual mistake, the nurse who couldn't seem to tie her hair properly, whose scrubs always looked slightly disheveled, whose presence made Maribel's eye twitch with professional disgust. Behind them, the lobby television droned on with the evening news. A sharp-featured man in an expensive suit filled the screen, Dominic Sterling, tech billionaire and philanthropist, discussing his latest venture. Lila's eyes flickered toward the screen for just a fraction of a second, something dark and unreadable passing across her face before her gaze dropped back to the medication cart. Her hands had stopped shaking entirely for that brief moment, steady as a surgeon's, before resuming their theatrical tremor. Dr. Victor Hawthorne leaned against the nurse's station, his silver-streaked hair catching the harsh overhead lights as he addressed the night shift staff. "I need to remind everyone that Wing D is off-limits without my explicit authorization. The patient we're transferring tomorrow is exceptional." His choice of words hung in the air, heavy with implications. 300 pounds of muscle. Former Black Ops. Genetic enhancements we're still trying to understand. Lila continued organizing supplies, but the quality of her stillness had changed. Where others shifted nervously, she became statue-like, absorbing every word with an intensity that contradicted her usual scattered demeanor. "Frank's team has triple reinforced the restraints," Hawthorne continued, oblivious to Lila's focused attention. "High-tensile steel rated for industrial use. The sedatives we've been administering would drop an elephant, but his metabolism burns through them like—" A distant clang echoed from the lower levels, so faint that most dismissed it as the building's aging infrastructure. But Lila's head tilted imperceptibly, her hazel eyes narrowing as she tracked the sound's origin with the precision of a predator identifying prey. For just a moment, her entire posture shifted, shoulders back, spine straight, chin level, before she caught herself and resumed her habitual slouch. The alarm split the night with its mechanical scream, and chaos erupted through St. Jude's corridors. Frank Dalton's voice crackled over the radio, "Code Black, Wing D. All units." His transmission ended in a sickening crunch of impact and a man's agonized scream. Elijah Stone emerged from the stairwell like a walking nightmare, blood streaking his hospital gown, shackle fragments still dangling from his massive wrists. Two security guards rushed him with batons raised. He caught the first by the vest and hurled him through a supply closet door. The second guard's baton connected with Elijah's ribs. The giant didn't even flinch. His backhand sent the guard spinning across the floor, unconscious before he stopped sliding. Frank Dalton, 20 years of security experience etched into his weathered face, squared up with his taser drawn. "Stand down, Stone." "We don't want to," the taser darts embedded in Elijah's chest. The giant looked down at them with something like curiosity, then ripped them free, wires and all. Frank's eyes widened in disbelief seconds before a massive fist connected with his jaw, dropping him like a stone. Throughout it all, a primal roar emanated from Elijah's throat, not quite human, not quite animal, but something caught between man and monster, reason and rage. The giant's rampage carved a path of destruction toward the main triage area. Patients in wheelchairs were abandoned mid-corridor as orderlies fled. Doctors dropped their charts and ran. Someone screamed, "He's coming!" and the emergency department transformed into a stampede of blue scrubs and white coats, all streaming toward the exits like water finding cracks. Maribel Cross, for all her imperious authority, joined the exodus without hesitation, her heels clicking frantically against the linoleum as she shoved past a slower-moving intern. Move, move, move. The professional hierarchy dissolved in the face of primal terror, attendings pushed past residents, nurses trampled their own supply carts, and the carefully maintained order of the hospital collapsed into survival instinct. But in the center of the chaos, one figure remained motionless. Lila Brooks stood beside an empty gurney, her back to the supply room, as Elijah Stone rounded the corner. The giant filled the corridor entirely, his shadow swallowing her small frame. His eyes, wild and unfocused, swept across the fleeing staff before landing on the solitary nurse who hadn't moved. Her hands, so famously unsteady during medication distribution, hung perfectly still at her sides. Her breathing, typically quick and shallow when Maribel criticized her, was deep and controlled. And her eyes, those downcast, timid eyes, met the giant's gaze with an unwavering steadiness that didn't belong to Lila Brooks at all. Elijah Stone advanced with the inexorable momentum of an avalanche, each footfall shaking the floor tiles. Blood dripped from his knuckles, leaving a trail of crimson breadcrumbs behind him. His breathing came in ragged, animalistic huffs, and his eyes remained locked on the remaining target ahead, the only one who hadn't run. Lila's gaze tracked his movements with surgical precision. She catalogued the slight favor of his right leg, old injury, probably knee. The way his left shoulder rolled forward, rotator cuff damage, recently aggravated. The irregular dilation of his pupils, chemical cocktail in his system, likely multiple sedatives fighting his enhanced metabolism. Her analytical assessment happened in milliseconds, invisible to anyone who might have been watching. The giant was 3 meters away now. 2 meters. Close enough that she could smell the antiseptic hospital soap mixed with sweat and blood. Close enough to see the confusion flickering beneath the rage in his eyes. Some part of him recognizing that this small woman should be terrified, should be running, but wasn't. "Nurse Brooks, run." Dr. Hawthorne's voice carried from his office doorway, where he'd barricaded himself behind his desk. But Lila didn't acknowledge him. Her focus remained absolute, her stance shifting with such subtlety that it appeared she hadn't moved at all. Yet her weight had redistributed, her center of gravity lowered, her angles changed. She'd become a different creature entirely, wearing Lila Brooks's skin like a costume. Elijah Stone's attention snapped toward Dr. Hawthorne's voice, his head swiveling with predatory focus. The doctor's face drained of color as the giant altered course, massive hands reaching for the office door. "No, please, I was just trying to help you." Hawthorne's words dissolved into panicked babbling as Elijah tore the door from its hinges with a screech of twisted metal. The giant's hand closed around Hawthorne's throat, lifting the doctor off the ground like a rag doll. The older man's feet kicked uselessly, his hands clawing at the iron grip cutting off his air supply. "GHHK, can't breathe." "Stone." The voice cut through the chaos like a blade through silk, clear, commanding, utterly devoid of fear. It didn't belong to timid Lila Brooks. It belonged to someone else entirely. Elijah froze mid-squeeze, his head turning slowly toward the sound. The woman who had been Lila Brooks stood in the corridor, but her posture had transformed. Shoulders back, spine straight, chin level, feet planted in a combat-ready stance. Her voice, when she spoke again, carried the weight of authority that had ordered men into battle. "Put him down, soldier." "That's an order." Something flickered in Elijah's eyes, recognition, confusion, a fragment of military conditioning fighting through the chemical rage. His grip on Hawthorne loosened slightly, just enough for the doctor to gasp a shallow breath. But the moment of clarity passed, consumed again by fury, and his grip tightened once more. That's when Lila moved. Lila closed the distance between them in 3 strides, her movements efficient and purposeful. Elijah's free hand swung toward her, a haymaker that would have shattered bone. She slipped inside his guard, her smaller frame an advantage now, and her fingers found the nerve cluster in his wrist. The giant's hand spasmed open, dropping Hawthorne in a gasping heap. Elijah roared and grabbed for her throat, but Lila was already moving. She caught his wrist, twisted, and drove her shoulder into his elbow joint with precise force. The sound of overextended ligaments cracked through the corridor. The giant's momentum carried him forward, and Lila used it, redirecting his mass with a hip throw that sent 300 pounds of enhanced muscle crashing to the floor. He was up impossibly fast, but so was she. His next swing came high. She ducked and hammered her palm into his solar plexus. Once, twice, 3 times, each strike targeting the diaphragm, stealing his breath. As he doubled forward, her hand shot to her pocket, producing a syringe that seemed to appear from nowhere. "I'm sorry," she whispered, her voice almost gentle. Her free hand locked onto a pressure point in his neck, holding him steady, and the syringe plunged into the carotid artery with the precision of someone who'd done this 1,000 times before. "Sleep now, giant." Elijah Stone's eyes widened in surprise, then slowly glazed over. His massive frame swayed once before gravity claimed him, and he collapsed in slow motion, unconscious before he hit the ground. The sound of multiple vehicles screeching to a halt outside shattered the stunned silence. Heavy boots thundered through the emergency entrance. Not police, not regular security. These men moved with military precision, wearing unmarked black tactical gear, their faces obscured by helmets. They swept through the hospital with practiced efficiency, corralling witnesses, confiscating phones, and speaking in clipped, coded phrases. Dr. Hawthorne, still gasping on the floor, watched them with recognition and dread. "You're Victor Hargrove's people," he rasped. "The Erasure team." The lead operative ignored him, speaking into his radio. Target contained. Collateral minimal. Initiate Protocol 7. His gaze swept the corridor, counting bodies, cataloging damage, and stopped cold when it landed on Elijah Stone's unconscious form. Who neutralized the asset? All eyes turned to where Lila had been standing moments before. The space was empty. A slight breeze drifted through the fire exit door, still swinging gently on its hinges. "The nurse," Hawthorne managed. "The Brooks woman, but she moved like nothing I've ever seen." The operative's jaw tightened beneath his helmet. He gestured to 2 subordinates. "Pull all security footage. Find her. And get me a full roster of everyone who witnessed the takedown." He keyed his radio again. "Command, we have a problem. Possible civilian with advanced combat training. Identity unknown. Requesting priority threat assessment." In the confusion and barked orders that followed, no one noticed the access badge lying abandoned by the fire exit, the name Lila Brooks barely visible beneath a splash of the giant's blood. 6 weeks later, the official report from St. Jude's Research Hospital classified the incident as a contained security breach with no fatalities. Elijah Stone had been transferred to an undisclosed facility. Dr. Hawthorne received a substantial financial incentive to retire early and forget what he'd seen. The staff who'd witnessed the event signed NDAs backed by legal threats that could end careers. But Maribel Cross couldn't stop thinking about the moment she'd glanced back during her flight and seen Lila standing alone in that corridor, utterly still, utterly fearless. The personnel records showed that no Lila Brooks had ever been officially hired. The employment file was a ghost, vanishing under scrutiny like morning mist. Dominic Sterling's private intelligence network had flagged the incident within hours. His analysts reviewed the confiscated security footage frame by frame, watching a timid nurse transform into something lethal and efficient. "Find her," he'd ordered, his voice cold with the certainty of a man who'd thought his enemy was dead. "Amelia Kingsley is alive." But Amelia had learned to disappear better than anyone Sterling employed. She was already 3 cities away, wearing a new face, carrying a new name, blending into another hospital's night shift. On her last day at St. Jude's, she'd left something behind, a single note tucked into Elijah Stone's medical file, where only he would find it when he eventually woke. The message was brief, written in a steady hand that never shook: "The world still needs giants. Stay undefeated." And beneath it, unsigned, the ghost of a woman who'd chosen to protect rather than destroy, just this once. Thank you for watching. Everyone ran when the giant broke his chains, except for the timid nurse with the syringe. I hope Lila's transformation from a seemingly broken nurse into the unstoppable Amelia Kingsley kept you on the edge of your seat. Now I want to hear from you. Fire, do you think Lila made the right choice by saving Elijah Stone, even though it exposed her identity? Thinking face, what do you think Dominic Sterling will do when he discovers Amelia is alive? Will he try to eliminate her or force her to work for him again? Syringe, should Lila continue running and hiding, or is it time for her to confront her past head-on? High voltage, and the biggest question: do you think Elijah Stone will come looking for the mysterious nurse who saved his life? Drop your theories and predictions in the comments below. I love reading your thoughts, and they often inspire future stories. If you enjoyed this psychological thriller with a twist of action, please hit that like button and subscribe to Brittany's Stories for more intense, character-driven narratives featuring strong protagonists who refuse to back down. Don't forget to turn on notifications so you never miss when I drop the next heart-pounding story. What kind of story should I write next? More medical thrillers? Action-packed vigilante tales? Revenge stories with hidden identities? Let me know in the comments. Stay undefeated, story lovers. Sparkles.